I'm gonna flip out, man. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm totally gonna flip out. No way. Don't try to stop me. It's too late. It's too late. I'm gonna flip. That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. If you had told me like a year ago that we'd have a bunch of dual screen handheld gaming options, I probably would have believed you. I mean, it's a totally reasonable thing to predict. Dual screen handhelds, it seems pretty obvious. I guess the surprise here is that it has taken this long for us to get some semi-affordable options for this sort of thing. We've had a few different choices come and go that attempted dual screen handheld stuff with various levels of success. And now we have this, the Ayaneo Pocket DS. Yet another Android dual screen handheld. So now that we've got dual screen doodads out the wazoo, it begs the question, now what? What are we supposed to do with two screens? Are we supposed to do this? No, that doesn't look like a good idea. No, I think people want two screens for a few different reasons. The first is dual screen gaming. You know, Nintendo DS and 3DS and Wii U. The second thing they want is to be able to do two things at once. They want to be able to play a game on one screen and be able to do something on the other screen at the same time, like watch a TechDweeb video, or look up maps or walkthroughs for their game. And the third thing they might want is some conveniences, like to have a little control panel to change system settings or whatever. And then the fourth thing that they want is to pretend that the screens are kissing when you close the lid. That's the main reason, probably. At least for me. But now that I've had dual screen doodads, there's two things that I've learned. One is that having a dual screen handheld gaming device doesn't impress the cute cashier at the bulk food store like I had hoped it would. And two, there's lots of quirks and weird issues that arise from having two screens on a handheld. And each device has different ways of dealing with those quirks. And this is a very important thing that sets them apart and can make or break the experience of actually using these things on a day-to-day to night-to-day again basis. And in this regard, the Ayaneo Pocket DS is sorta like me. It's really neat and fun, like me, but it's also a bit weird and janky, like me. And also it has recurring dreams about being spanked by its 4th grade teacher. Like, I will say right off the bat that I do have a few gripes, but I will also say that everything that I don't like is software related. The hardware is great and the software is pretty good overall, but there's a few weirdnesses that I think need to be addressed. However, Ayaneo can totally fix everything that I could possibly complain about this thing. They've done that in the past. They've released updates for their system to improve little glitchy things and make it better. This is an early review sample, so I fully expect that this will be better by the time it makes it into the hands of customers. It's my job to wade through the early jank so that maybe you'll get something that's perfect. I'm kind of a hero if you think about it. Kind of definitely a hero. Let's get the boring specs for nerds out of the way. This bad boy is rocking the Snapdragon G3X Gen 2 chip. That's the same chip that we've seen from Ayaneo in most of their top-end devices over the past year or so. They are using LPDDR5X RAM, and it comes in several different RAM and storage configurations. You can get between 8GB and 16GB of RAM, and between 128GB and 1TB of storage. The top screen is OLED, 7 inches, 1080p, with a 165Hz refresh rate, and the second screen is 5 inches, LCD, 1024 by 768 resolution, but that one is just 60 Hz. It has a huge battery, 8,000 milliamp hours, and we also get Wi-Fi something, Bluetooth 5.3, and Android 13. And for the price, they have an early bird pricing thing going on. Right now it's $399 up to $639, and after the early bird period, the retail price will be about $120 more for each of these options. Let's take a look at the thing. The lid is metal, I think. Opening it up and we're greeted by that big beautiful OLED screen and the second screen down there. For controls, we have a left stick up top and a D-pad underneath, start and select. Over here is our face buttons and our right stick, and this is the Ayaneo settings button and a show desktop button. Dual front-facing speakers, lots of buttons along the bottom. This one is for opening the dual screen options, and this one is a function button that I use for RetroArch, and this one is for changing the performance profile on the fly. This is the power button and the volume up and down. Underneath, we have a sneaky trap door that hides our SD card hole. nothing on the sides. Up top, we have bumpers and triggers and some extra rebindable function buttons and a USB-C hole for charging and video out and all that stuff, and some vent holes for airflow. And underneath, there's some nice ergonomic humps to squeeze and some more holes for airflow. And by airflow, I mean, you are a child if you laughed at that. It comes in black and orange and black, but as you can see, I am a lucky boy because I got the Retro Power version. Ayaneo went with a slightly different colorization for the Retro Power version of the Pocket DS compared to most of their other devices. The DS is more of a stark gray, but the cherry red tone of the buttons along with the two-tone gray body and bumpers and triggers and lid, it all just comes together so nicely. This is what Ayaneo does best. Premium feeling devices that are interesting and unique. I love this thing so much. When I opened this and my eyes took it in, I literally giggled like a schoolgirl with a crush. No, I mean I giggled like a Viking warrior mocking his fallen enemies. Like a manly giggle. It's a bit bigger than I was expecting. It makes sense, it's a big 7-inch screen. For comparison, the Retroid Pocket Flip 2 is 5.5 inches, and even the upcoming Ein Thor is only 6 inches. But even the thickness and the girth surprised me. I have an Ayaneo One SDS, which is a very powerful handheld PC with a Ryzen AI 370 chip, but it's almost the same size as this Pocket DS. And it's not light either. It weighs about 530 grams, maybe just borderline pocketable. Yo, Dweeb! Yeah? Give me a pocket test. You could at least say please. Fine. Dweeb, can you please shut up and give me a pocket test? That's better. Yeah, so you can put it in your pocket if you need to, but it's also sort of big and maybe you don't want to carry it around for very long. When it's in your hands, it really feels like a big audio-visual experience that you're getting. This screen feels enormous compared to any other flippy screen doodad. Heck, even the second screen is really big. However, that means that the area where the controls are is a lot smaller and more condensed. I find it quite comfortable. I was using it for about 4 hours straight yesterday, setting up emulators and testing games, and I had no problem doing that. It felt good to me the whole time. But ergonomics are a personal thing, and I can see some people not loving the condensed controls. So your mileage may vary. And speaking of the controls, all of the controls are basically perfect in my opinion. These are TMR sticks with perfect input quality. They're a bit on the smaller side, but that's fine. They're good sticks and they feel good to use. Good range of motion considering they're inset into the device. The D-pad and the buttons are both large and quite recessed. Very little travel, but they're clicky micro switch style inputs and actually using them feels lovely. Perfect quality inputs from the D-pad. No false diagonals, very accurate, and great for fighting games. I hit every single special move using this D-pad, which is good news because I suck at fighting games. Overall, the controls are just great. Not much else to say. Oh, and I should mention that the controls are all pretty quiet. They're not silent, but as retro handhelds go, this is on the quieter side. And also, both screens get nice and dim. So this will be great if you like to play in bed and you don't want to wake your girlfriend or your girlfriend's yoga instructor who needed to sleep over because it was too late to drive home. And they both had a little too much wine and they, what was I talking about again? There's a lot to talk about with the screens in terms of like the dual screen system stuff, but let's talk about the actual screens themselves first. The top screen is absolutely gorgeous. This is more or less the best screen that you can get on a handheld. It's OLED, which is amazing. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same screen that's on the Ayaneo Pocket Evo, and I loved it there. It's bright and clear and so silky smooth. 165 Hz refresh rate. However, there's one downside. When you're using both screens at once, the top screen runs at the same refresh rate as the bottom screen, 60 Hz. I think they had to have them sync up or something. So if you want to take advantage of the high refresh rate on the top screen, you're going to need to switch over to single screen mode. Not the end of the world, and even if you are using dual screens, most retro games are bound to 60 Hz, but even just like using the OS and stuff, it would have been nice to have silky smooth high refresh rate movement up here, even if we can't have that down here. I hope Ayaneo can make that a thing. That's just a minor complaint though. Overall, this screen is just mind-blowingly good. My mind is blown. My mind gets easily blown though. Earlier today, my mind blew when I put my root beer in the freezer for 11 minutes and it was the perfect slushie. Everything's coming up, TechDweeb. The lower screen is LCD, not OLED, but it's a good LCD. It's 1024 by 768, which is a great 4:3 resolution. This screen down here is mostly used for like interface stuff, or even just for using as a second screen for watching YouTube or whatever. I don't think you're going to be doing a ton of gaming on it, but you can though. If you want to play games down here and have a nice big screen up here to watch movies or whatever, I can see some people enjoying that. That's kind of the cool thing about dual screen doodads. You can do stuff in different ways, and that's fun. That's what I do for fun, at least. The sound though is it's weird. So like when I first turned this on and I played something through the speaker, I was like, what the heck is wrong with the sound? It was like a crappy, boxy, muffled speaker sound. And then I realized that in the Ayaneo settings, they have a custom EQ setting that was turned off. So I went through and I tuned the speakers myself, and now it sounds great. But like, I think Ayaneo might have messed something up with the default settings here. I more or less fixed it myself just by tweaking these knobs and dials. So I think that Ayaneo will fix this on their end. They'd be dumb not to, because the default sound profile is pretty bad. When it comes to the system, oh man, there's a lot to talk about. Android itself doesn't have a universal way to handle dual screens, sort of like how Windows does. So it's left up to the doodad makers to come up with some way to handle this. The short version is that Ayaneo's solution is fine, but not perfect, and it needs a little bit of work. Allow me to give you the tour. Ayaneo gave us some software down here that handles Android multitasking and changing settings. The default mode is this mode here, where you can get a few simple options to change the dual screen settings, basically turning the top screen on or off and which screen has priority for the controls. You got all your installed apps here, and you can tap these apps and launch them. Apps will launch on the screen that you launch them from. So if you launch an app from the normal launcher up top, it'll be up there. And if you launch an app from the Ayaneo software down here, it'll run on this screen down here. And when it's down here, you have the option to send it up to the top screen, either with a button or by swiping with 3 fingers. Whoosh! It's great when it works, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes the apps will relaunch themselves when you swipe them, and I've also had them crash on me too. RetroArch crashes when I do this. This is something that I expect will be fixed. But even now, the system works pretty good. You can usually do whatever you want. If you want games up here and something else down here, or games down here and whatever up here, it's easy enough to get things set up how you like them, unless you like them set up in a weird, dumb way. Then you need this handheld. Also, if you tap this button here, you're going to get into the ISpace settings, and that changes this interface down here to a whole different set of settings. You can change the performance mode and the fan settings and see performance figures like the FPS and the CPU and the GPU usage and the TDP. You can swipe over to get some control options or to access the on-screen key mapper, and another swipe will get you to some quick toggle options, which are sort of like shortcuts to Android settings. It all works pretty darn good. Except when it doesn't. It's all a little bit janky. Some sort of random glitchy stuff, like how the brightness slider for the bottom screen will reset itself every now and then after waking up from sleep. One time, apps stopped launching on the bottom screen and I had to reboot. And as you can see, part of this menu is in Chinese and I can't change it to English. It's just like a little sprinkling of jank over top of a solution that works okay for the most part. I think Ayaneo could improve the entire experience a lot and expand on what we can do. There's so much potential here. I'd love to be able to, for instance, have a touch keyboard down here, like they did on their dual screen Windows device. I'd love a task manager that was universal so I could control my apps that are running on the top screen from down here. And I want to customize this lower screen interface. Come on, Ayaneo. Let me put my own background or something down here. I don't like your dumb purple and yellow background for jerks. I want my own background for jerks. When it comes to performance, I'm not gonna give you benchmarks or whatever. I reviewed this same chipset when I made my review of the Ayaneo Pocket S, and the Ayaneo DMG, and the Ayaneo Evo, and the Ayaneo Ace. Go watch those videos if you want to see a deep dive of the performance. The short version is that you can play basically everything on here that you could want to play on Android. You get custom Snapdragon turnip driver support, so you can get the best performance out of any emulator that supports custom drivers. You can play all the GameCube, all the PS2, upscale to 3x resolution, most Switch, depending on how much RAM you get in your version of the device. PC emulation with GameHub or WinLater, again, depending on your RAM. This chip is a bit better than the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, a bit better than the Odin 2. So that should just give you an idea of what to expect. And with an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, you should be getting a ton of game time on this. I did some quick battery drain tests, and in my low end test, which is running GBA at the low power profile with 50% screen brightness on both screens, I calculated 12 hours and 30 minutes of game time. On my mid-range test, which is running Dreamcast upscaled at the middle power profile, I calculated around 6.5 hours of game time. And in my worst case scenario, which was running Switch in docked mode, which is 1080p at the max power profile, I calculated 3 hours and 20 minutes of game time. While gaming, the device stays pretty darn cool. I was able to turn off the fan entirely while playing the lightweight stuff, and even when you're maxing it out, the fan does a great job of keeping it cool. And you never need to turn the fan all the way up, so it's pretty quiet as far as high-end handhelds go. The main thing that we need to talk about in terms of gaming is dual screen gaming. DS and 3DS and Wii U. Nintendo DS is actually incredible. You can run Drastic or Melon DS standalone, and both of them detect the second screen as the second screen. So you can set them up to put the top screen up here and the bottom screen down here. And you can upscale the games. And they are nice and big, both the top screen and the bottom screen. You can use your finger as a stylus or get an Android tablet stylus. It works so good. It's a wonderful way to play DS games. Actually, this might be my favorite way to play DS games that I've ever tried. I love DS on this thing. Hello, editing TechDweeb here. Initially, when I recorded this, I couldn't get 3DS working in dual screen mode. Azahar wasn't working and Lime 3DS wasn't working, and I had a section in my script talking about that. However, I reached out to Ayaneo and they told me that Citra MMJR worked in dual screen mode. In my initial version of this section, I was kind of grumpy about the fact that 3DS didn't work properly. But it does, and it actually works great. I tried a whole bunch of stuff to test it, upscaled to 4x resolution, proper dual screen mode, and it was really, really nice. Like, crazy nice. Honestly, if you like 3DS and you want to explore that library of games, this is an amazing device for it. It's a bummer that we don't have Azahar yet because that's a more up-to-date emulator, but Ayaneo told me that the developers of Azahar and Semu are actively working on compatibility. So those should be available soon too. So at this point, basically all my complaints about the weird stuff is entirely to do with the interface and the software and stuff. And Ayaneo also told me they're aware of some of my issues and they're going to be fixing them. So that's just good news overall. Okay, back to the video. But even with that weird stuff that'll probably be fixed, I am completely in love with this thing. It's so lovely to game on, it's so cool and unique. The stuff that works is great, and I can live with all the minor issues that pop up, and if they get fixed, even better. What I see in the Ayaneo Pocket DS is a super high quality dual screen, flippy screen doodad with a best-in-class huge OLED screen, a big lovely second screen, great controls and ergonomics. Every single dual screen Android experience that I've had has been a bit janky in one way or another. This is early days for dual screen Android, and I expect that we're going to look back on these janky solutions and laugh at how primitive it is. It can be so much better, and I think it will be better, especially as more and more people get their hands on devices like the Pocket DS. As emulator compatibility expands and as we get custom launchers or whatever, it's just an exciting new frontier. Android dual screen devices. It's a fun new thing and I'm freaking here for it. And if you want an Ayaneo Pocket DS, there's a link to their Indiegogo page in the thingy below. And that brings us to the end. Let me know what you think of the Ayaneo Pocket DS. Are you thinking about getting one? Do you love it? Do you love me? Of course you do. Let me know how much you love me in the comments. That's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.